thank you all for the presentation. So I think now we can switch to the question part. We had already one question I noted down for Luca about how can fish enhance the immune system and probiotics, and what are the elements of nutrients? Maybe, I don't know if you would like to respond, the others can also.
Would you repeat the question, because it wasn't very clear to me.
How can fish feed enhance the immune system, and what about probiotics and the elements of nutrients?
Well, okay, I'm really not probably the right person to answer, but let's say that the positive effect of probiotics it's already established, although I think more work is needed to final confirmation. I think I see a great potential to converge where genetics and genomics will work with nutritionists to see the effect of host genetics and possibly of the microbiome within the host and the interactions with feed. I think there's very little work done compared to other traits when we think about the interaction between genetics and diet. It's a very important topic. I think we need to invest more in the future. What we can do is probably also to see if there is any functional genomic effect of specific feed, like feed with sort of nutraceutical properties. That's something that could be done, for instance, and see if they change somehow the profile, the expression profile, for instance, of immune related organs. That's something that can be done on the functional side, I guess. Maybe on the genetic side, Antti can about genotype by feed interactions. I think is much more expert than me.
Yes, because I think AQUAIMPACT also has some part on that.
Yes, that's true. We have some companies like Inve and Skretting, the feed companies, and well, especially Inve is they have feed ingredients which are helping fish to cope with the diseases, and it can be related to immunology itself, but there are also this sort of feed intake stimulants. So sometimes when the diseases hit the farms, the fish stop eating, and then just to stimulate the feeding, it can help the fish to cope with the diseases. So there are multiple ways, and I think it's an area how to use feeds to maintain good fish health. It's an area that is widely researched from the commercial point of view also.
Yes, because there are projects ongoing about this for different species, terrestrial species, but maybe at aquaculture species, it's not, the research is going on, but maybe there are big projects like this taking care of this, or looking into deeper. Sarah and Isabel, do you have any comments to add to this question?
Well, actually, I'm not an expert on fish nutrition. I think that Luca has already said what is known. So I think that probiotics could be important for enhanced immune response, but it could be nice to explore the interaction with genetics. So yeah, I totally agree with Luca and Antti.
Thank you. So Isabel, would you like to add anything to this from a production point of view?
Nutrition is a very it's a key point to keep the health status of the fish, of course, and all the improvements in this field is positive for the farmers.
Yeah. Thank you. So, Antti, you have a question? Maybe you can ask.
Yeah, yes, this is to Sarah and Luca. So in CBAS, we see that people present this VNN disease and the QTL for it. It pops out by different people from different parts of Europe. But is the QTL for this disease, is it the same across Europe?
Yes, it is. But of course, it has been, I think, reported 3 times now. But it could be possible that maybe the broodstocks we have been working with, maybe they're not so different. So maybe they've been established with the same population or similar population with genetically more similar than the diversity that is reported or is seen, observed across the entire species range. Or because, I mean, sea bass has been quite recently established as a domesticated species. Main selective breeding programs in sea bass, I think they're not older than 7, 8 generations at most. In some cases, 1 or 2. So, I mean, we have to check that. I think the next step might be to go for a joint effort with other groups working on the same trait, and have a, that would be also a very nice context where we can test whether functionally enriched genomic prediction methods are really more powerful, more accurate than the black box ones in predicting the phenotype based on training or reference population which are genetically distant from the test ones. That's my, I mean, a proposal for the people working on. I think some of them are in the audience, so it's I think might be time to try to converge somehow. Hope I answer your question, Antti.
Yes, I understood it well.
Sarah, do you have anything to add as well?
Actually, no. I totally agree with Luca. So I think that the best approach would be to try to test our instrument in other population, and to understand if we have something that could be used across population or across generation or across breeds.
And just to add on that, Antti, I think I think you pointed that out. We have to remind that there is a 60% of genetic variance still there outside the QTL region, which is not, it's I mean, using just one marker, maybe even a gene assist selection with that QTL will certainly be very helpful for any breeding company having that variant in their broodstock. But on the other side, we have to still keep working and try to figure out how to use the remaining 60%. So I also agree with your suggestion initially. I think it's still unproven that using functional genomic information will improve the accuracy. There is some evidence in human genomics, there's some evidence in cattle genomics. I think we have some road still to cover, but we can probably try and test it in fish in the next few years. But still, it's still a promise, not a certainty.
Yes, if I reflect on this one, we have worked on the Saprolegnia fungus resistance in one of our farm species. It has a large QTL that explains 30% of the genetic variation. We see clearly that if we model this one QTL and then additionally the rest of the genetic variation, we see that the breeding values have 3 peaks, which is the QTL and then the polygenetic, so the the rest of the markers, so the pedigree or genomic relationship matrix, it explains the rest, and it gives the genetic variance due to the polygenetic part of the genome. And of course, when we have the total breeding value, then we are able to select the total genomic breeding value, which is the combination of the QTL and the polygenetic part. So in that way, we benefit from both parts of the inheritance mode.
Maybe I can ask a question. Do you think these data or these research results are easy to integrate for the breeding companies? Or maybe, yeah, Isabel can respond. What are the main barriers? I know cost effectiveness is quite important for the companies, but are there also other barriers, like do you need more capacity building from these kind of projects, or yeah, anything?
Yes, the main point is the cost-effective result. So what you have to invest and the return that you get. This is the point that we have to evaluate to go for the next steps in the breeding program. We have to evaluate the traits of interest, and then we have to evaluate the difficulties and the investment that we have to put in this next steps.
Thank you. Anybody else who would like to comment on this?
Well, I can reflect on this one. If we specifically think about genomic selection, for example, then it depends so much on the companies and breeding programs. If we have like large companies that are already running the breeding programs and genomic selection, then typically the researchers and the company can together improve the system by some kind of modify that it's better, and then the cost of improving things, it's minimal what needs to be done, because they have already taken the big step of applying genomic selection, and then it's also perhaps easy to develop common projects with this sort of partners, because they already are fully implementing all these things. Then if they are breeding companies that are taking the first steps to genomic selection, then that step is very big one. And what Isabel is saying is that then the money comes into the picture, that they need to really increase the amount, or typically need to increase the money that they invest into this. And that's a critical part, that then they need to make really the decision that now let's change the system. But it's very clear that what the benefits are, what we get from investing into genomic selection. Another thing about, let's say, how the projects work, if we have companies or breeding programs and we work inside these breeding programs, then typically the implementation and the knowledge transfer is quite fluent. But then also in AQUAIMPACT, which is a applied project, we have parts of work which are risky, perhaps a little bit speculative, and of course we have known it originally, but of course the idea is that, and we may fail, but of course the idea is that it's something that is good that is done in the research project, so that the companies don't make these speculative moves first, but a project can make it, and then everybody can see that, hey, how is it going? And then they can make their own decisions that, okay, is this the path to go, or should we think it in a different way? So it's about taking risks, and then everybody can see what is happening, and they can make their conclusions, and that is also important
Yes.
part.
Yes, I
So if we just do things that we are 100% sure how things go, then perhaps the learning process is not so effective.
That the companies are involved in doing this, because if it works, they already have the experience and knowledge on the application part as well. Okay, are there any other questions or anybody who would like to comment? Just jump in. If not, I think we are already over our time, so we can close. Okay, I don't see any other questions. Thank you very much all.